I just wanted to take a moment to respond to the statement made by the leader of the opposition, where he essentially said that his plan is to cut foreign aid. This is shocking to me and to our government, because essentially what it will lead to is a diminishing of Canada's influence on the world stage. It will mean that it is a cut against support to the most vulnerable people in the world. And if he's prepared to make this cut, what else is he prepared to cut? It's quite frankly irresponsible, not well thought out, and reckless. Is he prepared to cut EI, the Canada Child Benefit that has lifted tens of thousands of kids out of poverty? Is he going to cut childcare, which has resulted in hundreds of thousands of women returning to the workforce and families saving thousands of dollars every month? So, you know, as a trading nation, we're connected to the world. We have a vested interest to ensure that we have a more peaceful and prosperous world that we can engage with. And his statement today is really shocking, because it will result in us not contributing to a more peaceful and prosperous world, and it will diminish our influence on the international stage.
Minister, how can you in good conscience criticize the Conservatives on saying they're going to cut foreign aid on the day that the Parliamentary Secretary for the Foreign Affairs Minister says Canada is abandoning people who are dying in Gaza by cutting aid to UNRWA?
Well, I reject the premise of your question. I will, of course, leave Ms. Oliphant to answer your question. What I will say is that we've stepped up in a big way to provide help to civilians affected by the conflict in Gaza. We've been there from day one. We were the first Western country to move to provide humanitarian support to the tune of $60 million. And recently we announced an additional $40 million to go to trusted international partners to deliver food, medicine, and other essential supplies to civilians on the ground, which makes Canada one of the top 3 donors in the entire world in terms of addressing this crisis.
Are you not fueling the Conservatives' arguments by, without seeing any evidence, saying you would pause funding to UNRWA when they're accused of?
On the contrary, it's the United Nations family itself that approached us with these disturbing and serious allegations. We haven't ended our relationship with UNRWA. We have paused funding pending the results of this investigation, which is being conducted by the United Nations itself. And by the way, this is in line with all our like-minded countries, and we're working with the United Nations itself to make sure that we have a transparent, comprehensive, credible investigation. And we'll be working together to make sure that we respond accordingly to the results of that investigation. But I'm not going to prejudge that work.
They did not expect you to cut funding. The accusations they've made.
I just actually had a meeting, coincidentally, with the ambassador from Israel this morning, doing exactly that. Evan?
UNRWA said they didn't expect Canada or other countries to cut funding. I just want to ask you about how long this might go on, because UNRWA says it's going to run out of money to run its operations in about 2 weeks. UNICEF says 10,000 children could starve to death in the space of 2 to 3 weeks. Well, how long are you willing to wait?
Well, 2 things. First of all, our support for all the partners with respect to Gaza is in their hands now. We've, as I said, we moved initially with $60 million. We moved with a further $40 million. The initial $60 million included $20 million towards UNRWA to do its work on the ground in Gaza. We know that UNRWA has a presence and a history in the region, and that people rely on them. The Canadian funding to UNRWA, particularly with respect to the Gaza response, is there. This affects future funding, and you know, you asked me how long this is going to go for. It depends on how long the investigation takes. But of course, we also have a fiduciary responsibility to Canadian taxpayers to give them the confidence necessary to know that we're dealing with a transparent, comprehensive, credible investigation. And by the way, the United Nations itself is engaged in this. The Secretary General is personally involved. All the countries that have paused funding are working together on this with the UN. So we want to get to a good place, but we also are insisting on a credible and comprehensive and transparent investigation. But make no mistake, we're also increasing funding to the other partners. World Food Program, $13 million more. World Health Organization, UNICEF, ICRC, and the Office of the Coordinator for Humanitarian Affairs. So
Can't deliver it. He says the only agency that can is
I would say that, you know, like the World Food Program has delivered thousands of trucks into the region and into Gaza specifically. So $13 million more to the World Food Program means more food on the ground for those who desperately need it.
We do not need an investigation or to see any evidence to cut funding or to pause funding to UNRWA, but there's a plausible case of genocide before the ICJ, and your government has stopped no funding or support to Israel. What's the difference between those two things?
What I have said, what I just said a few minutes ago is the UN itself approached us with these serious and disturbing allegations.
The allegations forward
The
without evidence.
UN itself approached us with these serious and disturbing allegations. We have a duty to respond responsibly, which we did. We paused funding pending the results of the investigation by the United Nations itself.
Are you
colleagues are not happy with Canada's position on Israel.
Look, I mean, we have a diversity of opinion in our caucus, which reflects Canada. Unlike the Conservatives and the NDP, we have a big tent in our party which reflects Canada, and those conversations are very healthy and enriching. I have no problem with those views.
What is your view?
I've told you my view. I've been answering. I answered your question earlier.
Stand by your decision to pause funding.
Absolutely, yes.
Should do more.
We have been doing more. There's of course more to be done, but as I said, we were the first Western country to move, and then we added an additional $40 million. But the needs are great, and we will continue to be there. We've always focused on the needs of the most vulnerable on the ground, and that's what we'll continue to do. Thank you so much.